All right, welcome to another Partner Essentials training for SOS Online Backup. My name is Derek Wood. I'm the product manager here at Infrascale, which is previously known as SOS Online Backup. Infrascale is just our corporate identity to account for new products and services we've released. So today we're going to be talking about SOS Online Backup. We're going to go through everything you need to know about being in our program. So how do you get more information about the service? If you have any technical questions, how do you get help? Where can you reference certain items, guides, etc.? We're going to go through the partner dashboard. We're going to go through the dashboard so you know how to do your daily monitoring and activity reporting on a regular basis for your customers. We'll also discuss a new function that we released this week, called a new role actually, called the company admin account. So that's an exciting release we've had and we've been working on for a few months now. And for those of you who've been around are aware and waiting with bated breath. We will be recording this session. We're recording it right now, and we'll be posting it on our website at a later date. And we'll probably cut it up into smaller pieces as well for quicker reference videos. Then we're going to go into, after the dashboard that is, we're going to go right into best practices and setting up the software and how our different services come together to form a full backup solution for your clients and how you can utilize those. If you have any specifics of deployment environments or how you'd like to go deploy, or if you've already been using the software for a while, if you've run into any other best practices, feel free to use the chat and let us know. We'll spread the word, and that's always great. And of course, there's the partner community that we'll go through. And then if you have any issues with any particular deployments, we can go through that as well, see if we can get to the bottom of that. So if you have any questions or ideas of what you'd like to focus on today, feel free to use the GoToMeeting chat function at any time to just let me know if you want me to recover something, if I haven't covered something that you're interested in hearing, anything at all, and we'll make sure that we get to it at an appropriate time. So with that, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to cover is how do I get additional questions answered? One of my favorite answers for that is Google it. You can certainly do that, but we do have a full support site built out for you. So if you come to sosonlinebackup.com, you hit support, and you're going to come first here to see the different options for support. So we have phone, chat, ticketing, and a knowledge base. I recommend first, knowledge base is always great. You know, we want to enable you all to be self-sufficient. It keeps you on your own agenda and and that's always nice because then it's on your schedule. If it's not in the knowledge base, then you'd probably want to contact us directly via chat or some other method. So here, I'm already logged into our knowledge base. So the knowledge base, we really recommend that you register for it. When you register for the knowledge base and you first start becoming active, we'll add you to what we call the Partner Advisory Community. So all of our partners are in the advisory community. The advisory community has a special area in the knowledge base that you can't see unless you're logged in and registered. So this has items like the product roadmap. So if I open this up, we can see information here. So I update this on a monthly basis. So we're expecting a new PC client beginning of February. So that would be a good training to come to as well. The client is going to include support for Exchange 2010. There's going to be some new branding options. There's going to be the improved UI for the upload agent. And one of the changes that has been requested is for the upload agent not to appear for every scheduled backup that runs, and only for manually run backups. So now that's been removed as well. And we have different items. So company support for partners. This is released, so we're going to be covering that today. And then different items for Mac, SSU, UA redesign, PC client backup wizard, all this stuff. So we try to let you know what we're going to be working on for the next month and what the next major releases are. A lot of what we plan out is also based on your participation in the community. So the backup feature requests and ideas section here, Anyone is free, whether internal staff within InfraScale or our partners, are allowed to post up a specific feature they'd like to see. And through the features, there's a discussion on them to make sure that there's a proper understanding of what we want to implement and how we're going to implement it. I'll even post out some wireframes for more UI-intensive features, and then we can get to the bottom of what we really want to get done. We will have a status of planned or completed, and then once it's completed, we'll mark it as such. So this one, go ahead and mark that as done. And that'll be that. So that's a big change everyone's been looking forward to. Also in the advisory community, we publish pre-release builds for any type of user acceptance testing and really just for some feedback. So we did a pre-release build earlier this month with the Exchange beta support, and we're looking for people to come back with some basic feedback on what we're looking for there. We also have general discussions about issues and bugs. So if you are finding yourself running into a lot of the same issue but not making any progress, or you want to see if anyone else is also running into the same thing, this is also a good forum to get into, not only because it documents it through the support system, but now you're also getting the attention of our developers, product managers, myself, and our CEO, Ken Shaw, who is very active in these forums. So this is a great mode of communication that we like to keep open with our partners, is we are building this so that you can be most effective in the market and provide an effective service for your customers. So the forums are great. If you just type in guide, that'll probably be the most valuable search you can make here. So you have the complete server state installation and user guide, and this is updated on a regular basis. If there's anything in here that you can't find, then you should just comment on it, and we all follow it. And so this actually references a lot of other articles as well. So that's just a big guide. So it's a living, breathing document. If we're talking about things like, do I need a staging machine? So okay, we're going to talk about staging machines later. We have this article. Nice pretty pictures for us here. Also describes recommended and then minimum recommendation of what would be the bare minimum for a staging machine profile. And we have that here. Looks like we got a cheap laptop, the very minimum. So just on a NAS, we'll go into that towards the end of the training. But all sorts of information about the system. So if you have any questions about how to get things done, it's always good to do a search through the knowledge base. Our support staff, when they are helping you out, they are supposed to be filling out or searching through the knowledge base for particular items. So if you ask a question, they're going to ask the question here. And if nothing comes up or not an accurate article comes up, then they're going to go fix that. So they're using this very heavily as well. Other than that, it's always good to submit a ticket. So if you can't find it in the knowledge base, submit a ticket. What's nice about submitting a ticket is that you can record a screencast, and you can also attach a file. So that's really nice to be able to have there. Kathy asked, do you have a printer-friendly version of the guide? No, I'm sorry, all of our guides are in forum style, so we don't have PDFs of this. Yeah, it will come out strange. You'd probably have to do a search all, or a select all, paste it into a Word document, probably do some formatting changes, and then you'd be able to print it out. But all the guides are in this form. If you're using a smartphone or a tablet and you just want to have it available if you're off-site and for some reason don't have the internet access, there are a lot of applications for offline mode, or even just your computer, you can save the page, or you can make the page available offline. So that's one way that you can do it. And then some of those programs are actually converted to a PDF for you. So this is nice because you can record a screencast, so if something's happening and you're not quite sure what's going about, and you want to show it. That's always good. attaching files, often we're going to ask you for your log files. So your log files, well, actually this is another great ticket we can search for. So if we come back here to search for logs, and where can I find the logs for all backups? And you open this up, and then it shows you where you can get them. So, Vista or later, program data, online backup recovery manager, logs, and in XP in 2003, you have this path. So, real nice way to get out some logs. Logs are pretty simple to go through. We'll open some up later today and just show you kind of what we're looking at when we open up logs. And this will also help you understand what's going on and so that you can start doing it yourself. If you ever want to ask our support agents what they found when they looked through logs, feel free to. We welcome it. They'll be more than happy to show you how you can, kind of help speed along any troubleshooting if you have to run into that. So logs are great. Basically, anytime you submit a support ticket, just like you need information from your customers, we're going to need enough information so we can repeat the issue. Until we can repeat the issue, it's going to be very difficult to fix it. And of course, that's for actual issues, not so much performance or how to do things. Any questions on the knowledge base or submitting a ticket? All right, once you submit a ticket, of course, you're logged into our system. You will be able to log into the system and see any active tickets you have open. So that's always nice to be able to have a little queue there to see what you do have open. It allows you to then participate in the community. And when you submit a ticket, you'll have a ticket number. Once you get the ticket number, that's when I recommend chatting in or calling in. I've always found it to be faster for the originator of the ticket to input the information about the environment and what's happening, submit that information formally via ticket, and then call in with that ticket number to reference. That way it's already in the system. The reason for that is somebody's going to have to put it in the system, and it could be you, giving as much detail as you can, or you're telling somebody over the phone what's happening, and they're going to transcribe it for you. And sometimes you can lose pieces of information in translation or just communication, playing a classic telephone game. So that's just a recommendation there. And that's all I have for getting more help. Just going to go to the dashboard now. If you have any questions about support or getting more help, feel free to ask. So the main dashboard URL is dashboard.sosonlinebackup.com. We've also added, now that we have company support, dashboard.managed-offsite-backup.net. So this is just like with the My Account system. So the My Account system has a myaccount.sos, and that's for SOS branded users, SOS customers. For customers of yours, you take them to dashboard or myaccount.managed-offsite-backup.net. So you can log into either, it doesn't really matter. If you're in front of your customers, you'd probably want to load up managed-offsite-backup.net instead. And then I log in with my partner credentials, and these credentials are emailed to you after you've signed up with the program. Anyone signed up with the program and still do not have their admin credentials? If that's true, just submit a ticket or follow up with your partner specialist, and they'll be able to get that out to you. Maybe check your junk or your spam filter. Maybe it got caught in there. But you should have it within 24 to 48 hours of signing up with us. All right, so starting at the top and just going down, we have first the news and updates. This is the description says, this is where we publish important items. So if I go to view all, I can see all the things we've published so far. So webinar reminder, which is where maybe a lot of you saw the registration link for this. Also, the announcement of the company account. More webinar information, so just to remind you if we've changed our training or not. The publishing of the Native Exchange beta, so that was there. Launching a new product in the File Locker. So we're using this news and updates for actual important news and updates regarding our features, our programs, or products. And this is not something that we want to be considered a spammy system. So if you ever feel like we're getting a little spammy with this news and updates, just hit us back and let us know. We certainly want this to be something that you are paying attention to. So you can subscribe to it via email update or have it on or subscribe to it via RSS feed. That way you can always be up to date on what we're working on for you. So that's news and updates. Then we have these 3 views up here. These 3 views are just nice little summaries of what you would find if you went into our tools section. So the first one, account usage. If we go to view accounts, that's basically what account usage is coming from. So this is going to give you your top 5 accounts as far as the percentage of their account size that they've used. So this gives you an indication of who is ready for an upgrade. That's really all this is. If I hit view all, it's going to open up the view account section with the filter by use space. I can search for account name, or I can search by a specific email address and then find, if I don't know what the account name is, but I know what the email address is, I can search by that and it'll come up here. From here you can also go to actions. You can do things like manage a backup policy. A backup policy applies to a particular deployment. We define a deployment as a backup account installed and running on a particular machine name, or I guess on a machine. But it's a combination of a backup account and machine, because you can only have, that's one deployment that you'll have. So you can manage a backup policy. So when you create a policy, which I'll show you in a minute, you can assign that policy to a particular machine. So here's your policy drop down, and you enter the machine name that you'd like to apply it to, and hit apply. You can also change the account size. So if we want to change it to be less than, so this has, there's no option larger than 200 gigs, but because use space is less than 50%, which means it's less than 100 gigs, I can actually downgrade this account to 100 gigabytes. So that's been another big request for all of our partners on the line who've been on for a while, is the ability to downgrade accounts. So that's new with our program, previously not available. So that's now available here. You can also change the email address associated with the account. So if the email address changes, or if the ownership of the account changes to a different email address, then you can do that. That's fine. Or you can simply cancel the account. That's the view account section. Next is your monitoring section, and this is pretty much your daily digest of what is happening. So this tells us, okay, out of all the deployments we have, of which we have 13 right now, 9 are fine, 3 have some sort of warning, and then one's in the red. So one either hasn't run or it stopped running recently. So if I hit view all, or if I view one of those, it'll filter out appropriately. So you can filter out by the type of error, so error, okay, or warning. There's 2 definitions for each level. So okay either means, for instance, this deployment, so hardened trial on Bob-PC Home, is running a file and folder backup, and backup is in progress. It looks like it just started. So that's running. And then this updates every 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes you get an update with what's happened on this account. So this is green in that it's checking in regularly. If it wasn't checking in regularly, and let's say it missed, an hour went by and there was no update from the machine that it was running on. So it's been an hour, there's no updates, it's missed 2 check-ins. Then it goes to yellow and says, update not received from backup. And it will give you the last event date and the last status of that. Red means that during a backup means 2 hours has gone by, there's been no update, and as far as we can tell, the backup's no longer running. Now, this is a web service that connects from the client to our monitoring web service. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the backup is no longer running. It just means that for whatever reason we can't get that communication. But with that said, it gives you an indication that you need to go check it out. So those are the statuses for active for a backup while it's running. The other set of statuses is green if it's run in the last 24 hours. Okay, it's running on a scheduled backup and it's run fine. Yellow is when it hasn't run in the last 3 days. So if more than 3 days goes by, it turns yellow. It says this backup did run. And the last time it ran, it did just one file, 400 bytes, and that was it. But it hasn't run since. So likely this is a just a trial installation, just checking it out, so we can remove this record or remove record from that account. The other one is red, that it's been a week and no backups run. Somebody's on vacation, their machine's been off, whatever the case may be, but you had that. If you want to completely remove an account as well, if you go to monitoring settings here, you can say, you know what, this backup account, this trial is over, we just don't need to see it anymore, so I'm going to uncheck it and I'll save. By default, all new accounts that you create will automatically go into your monitoring queue. So we can filter by account name or system name. You're only going to have one status per deployment in this view. Let's say we want to see what's happened over a certain amount of time on this deployment. So it's the end of the month, or we're doing some troubleshooting, and we want to see what's been going on. Well, this area of the graphs gives you a total view of what all your accounts are doing. So it looks like out of all the accounts we have in this, under this company, Acme, we backed up just under 9 gigs last month, and that's pretty much it. Let's look at the history reporting. So now this gives us every event and the summary of every event. So the total backup set size, the total number of files processed, total number of files not changed, total number of files uploaded, total number of files aired out, and then the event date, and how long it took, and the average speed while it was transferring. So you can, typically what we would do is say, okay, you know what, we want to say, okay, it'll be partner demo. We want to just get a summary for this backup account on all the machines it's run on for the last month. So we hit apply. Going to refresh this to that point, and then we can export this to Excel. So we get history events. I'm going to open this up. Great, and now this gives you the ability to turn this around into some type of pretty report for your customer. It's always nice to hand over your customers where you're doing a monthly recurring billing. You got to be able to give them some reporting, some nice data, pretty pictures. You basically want to be able to hand them over a packet of information every month, a nice folder that says, this is why you're paying me every month. One of the tougher things with being a good managed service provider is keeping value of your services in your business when your customer kind of has you in an out-of-sight, out-of-mind issue. That's why the daily backup reports to your customer, having your company name on it, is helpful because they see your company name every morning and you're adding some value. Also here, we want to be able to add some nice pretty charts and pictures. So we'll do a quick little pivot chart. We say we want to see how many files were uploaded per system, and also per backup type. So there's only files and folders, I guess, or an image stream. So you could do it that way. You can be creative with how you want to do that, and maybe you'd probably turn out a couple of different graphs with this information, but it allows you to do that. That's also helpful for estimate or seeing the progress of an initial backup. An initial backup can take a good amount of time, and that's a good way to see what kind of progress they're making on it. So again, that was view accounts, monitoring, real-time monitoring, and then backup history that we just went through. now we have rebrand settings. So to come into rebrand settings, this is a big part of the program is rebranding the product. So here's where you put your information that you want to appear when your clients log in, when they get email reports and interface with the service. So you can update the logo, so you upload it yourself. If you want some more specs on what the logo should be as far as the items, you can see information here. So 68 by 49, maximum 1 meg file size. The desktop icon, same thing. You get information about what the desktop icon is going to be. You can upload that. The report sender address, so when backup reports are sent from your software client, what email address is going to be sending those reports? So you can put that in here. Do make sure that this email address exists. And if you put a fake email address in here, the odds are that most of your backup reports are going to get bounced at a spam filter or in the junk mail, or even they may not even make it to your user's spam and junk mail, and the ISP may bounce it because it'll kind of fail the email 3 strikes law of spam. My account login, this information is pretty generic and doesn't really change. Product site URL, this actually doesn't appear anywhere, but it's just where you would put your product landing page, where you want people to go if they hit a Contact Us button or URL. If you have an upgrade cart or a shopping cart, you put them here. Oftentimes it's the same as the Contact Us, and that's really it for there. Any questions on what we've covered so far? All right, moving right along. Another thing is assigning licenses to backup accounts. So if you have a backup account, you want to assign them a server license. The server license includes a license for the image backup creator as well as Exchange granular recovery. So they're 2 separate licenses, but they come together as one. You hit assign, you enter the account name, hit save, and now you've gone and assigned a license. If you need more licenses, contact your partner specialist and they'll get you set up. Now for new features. So we have a new feature called View Companies. So the company role serves 2 purposes. One, it's going to make something, or it's going to make organization very nice. So if you have a company and the company has, say, 5 accounts, then you could just create a company admin and have the 5 accounts under that, and it makes your reporting very simple. So if we go here, for example, and we can change the company quota, or we can log in as the company admin. So I'll do the log in as the company admin. So it logs me into what they see when they log in to dashboard.managed.offsitebackup.net. So this is what it looks like. So they have the same type of thing: view accounts, monitoring, history. They do not have rebranding available. But if they go to backup history, then you don't have to filter. You can just export everything. And then that makes it very simple to get a company level summary of what's happened over the last 30 or 60 days, whatever your billing period is, without having to run multiple reports like that. So one thing you could do is you just create this for organization's sake, and you don't hand out this login to anyone. Or if you do have a company where they do have a login, or somebody who wants access to be able to log into things like this, then you could give them a separate login. And when they come to dashboard.managed.offsitebackup.net, they can log in. So I didn't know the password to that one, but I know this one. And they're only going to see account information that they own and is relevant to them. All right, so let's log back in as Acme. Let's go over account or company creation real quickly. So I go to View Companies. And if I go to Actions, I can either change the company quota as far as licenses or size. I can also just click right here and change it. If I hit Create, now I get a form to create a new company quota. You'll see that it's a pretty similar form for backup account username creation, and that's because it's going to create a 1 gig backup account as well. So this is just kind of a placeholder account. So if you create an account here with a company, you're assigning a quota, you do have to make sure that you have enough available quota yourself to provision that much backup space or that many licenses to this company. Customer type, this is not going to appear for about 99% of you. We have some partners from years back where they have multiple customer type codes. We drop down here, multiple customer type codes. Most of you who signed up in the last year will only have one. And if you have multiple, come talk to us, as we like you to get on one anyways. But that's it. So this is a basic form to create a company admin account. For those of you using the web integration package, you'll have some arrows here, and this little 1, 2 indicates that there's a second page. And you have your web integration package. This is going to pop open the back end and log you into the back end of the web integration package. This is something that's only used if you are really trying to market towards a customer-facing sign-up page. So this is a template that comes set up for you. It comes with a full-fledged website that's filled out, about 10 pages total, including the sign-up page. You can plug various merchant account information into this sign-up page and title the plans as you see fit. And that's all we have there. So for the most part, this web package was developed with our API system. So if you're creating accounts through the merchant gateway, anytime you're going to create or upgrade an account, you're going to want to come into the web integration package and do that. If you change an account in the SOS dashboard system after you've created it in the web integration package, the web integration package will not reflect those changes. Just how APIs work one way. So either use the web package or just use our dashboard, but you don't want to use both at the same time when it comes to account management, like account creation, upgrade, or cancellation. Any questions on that? Is that clear? Does that make sense? Stan's good question. Why are we not able to assign 2 licenses to the same account? Because our system is only set up to accept 1 per account. That's really all it is. So if you do need an additional, say, image backup license, then the only way to do it right now would be just to create another 1 gig backup account just to hold the license. And then you just use that license to log in. And then you can use the 100 gig backup account otherwise. Does that make sense to everyone? As far as how you would go about it, not necessarily why, but if you needed multiple accounts for the same company or user, you can only assign 1 license key to a single account. So if you needed 2 licenses for the same customer, just to create a 1 gig backup account and then assign a license to that one. And then you would use that when you're actually setting up the licenses and authorization for the image creator software and the exchange agreement or recovery software. All right. Then down here at the bottom, we have our download URLs. So server save. Server save is a wrapper application that includes access to all of the pieces of our system. Online backup for Mac is just the online backup and recovery manager for the Mac. Online backup for Windows is exactly that. For Windows, online backup for Windows MSI is for your Microsoft installer customizations. If you want to mass deploy across a network, come into our knowledge base, just check with MSI or mass deployment. too narrow. So searching the whole knowledge base. How can I essentially deploy the online backup software application? And this gives you the instructions of how to do this. So set it up with an MST. Basically, the one goal is if you're going to deploy it out, to get an account installed and username logged in, and then you can control the backup set and schedule from your dashboard. How do you control the backup set and schedule? We have remote backup policies here, so if you click open to this, we can create a new one, or let's just go ahead and edit one that exists. Hit edit. It's going to pop you up into a screen which looks a lot like the PC client. So the only difference, it's not a PC client, and I guess the other difference is that there's a policy name that you have to apply here. And there's also no tree view. So this is to control the scanner and scanner settings, and then the scheduler settings. So policy, standard user backup. So you say let's scan all the user personal folders, so my documents, my pictures, my music, or scan all folders. So if they have a network drive or something you want to grab some data from. And then you say, okay, we want documents, picture files, so images. We don't want music, we don't want video, custom, QuickBooks, sure. Then scheduler settings, backup automatically without user intervention. So that's just to run it on a schedule. Backup when Windows user is not logged on. If you are backing up data on a Windows domain, then you need to enable this. If you don't, what you'll often find is a backup report with a bunch of errors that says unable to access this location, just for all the files that are on the network location. So you put in your Windows admin credentials here. Then you type in you select the frequency. For individual workstations, it's not a bad idea to do it every hour, every couple of hours. This is a great restore point objective, so it means you can go back as recently as 1 hour. And it's not system heavy at all. For your initial backup, you won't want to do this, but for your subsequent backups, users are only going to be modifying or adding a few files a day. So this is a really easy thing to do to keep your users protected right at the source of data change. And then your file server or any other servers, you're probably going to do it on a daily basis. Email backup reports. So this is a different backup report than what we saw with the monitoring dashboard. So this is going to come directly from the PC client. So no email gets sent if the backup does not finish. So it's literally the last step of the backup before the upload agent closes is to send email report. So if the machine crashes and turns off, nothing will be sent. But this will give a nice little email report to whoever's on it. You can add multiple people on that as well. For you admins, you can put yourself on that, but more specifically, when you go to real-time monitoring or activity alert, either way, you put in your email address here, and it's going to send you a daily digest of what's happened. So it'll literally just it starts in the order of error to warning to okay, because that's really what you care about, the errors and the warnings. And for each deployment, it's going to give you what happened in the last 24 hours. So this gets sent out every morning at about 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, and that'll give you a quick update of what you should do every day. Any questions on the dashboard? All right, so we got about 15 minutes left, so we're going to open up a VM real quickly and get together on how to set up backup. So we'll create a quick bare metal image backup schedule. We'll use the online backup recovery manager to take that off site. and then we'll recover it. And that should be good. If we have time, we'll do an exchange granular recovery. But it depends if we can get through this quickly enough. Okay, so that's the server save application. Let me close this and reopen it. So server save, you download it, you save it to your desktop. Sign in with your backup account username, and you're going to want to sign in with the one that has the license key assigned to it that you want to use. So if you have a 1 gig backup account, just to hold the license and to install Bare Metal Image Creator and Exchange Granular Recovery, you're going to use that account that has the license assigned to it. Then when you hit license details, it'll pull them in here, so you can download the INI file, so actually download the Exchange Granular Recovery file. And for Image Creator, you just have the license key here. So we hit license details, we're going to copy it, and open up Image Creator. And this is already installed. If not, it would run me through a installation wizard. Anytime you want to install this on a server, you're going to have to make sure you're doing it at a time where you can reboot the server. This says work via VSS. So if you have any VSS programs like Acronis or Backup Exec, you're going to have to uninstall those programs, restart, install our program, restart. So make sure that you are installing the server tools at a time where it'll be fine. The Online Backup and Recovery Manager, which is this portion, it's recommended to reboot after you install it, but it's not recommended. Michael Feldman has a great question. Does that include shadow copy? No, it doesn't include shadow copy. So again, when you're going through the installation, open up the guide, and the guide covers everything. So what you need to install, so installing Bare Metal Image Creator, uninstall all VSS backup applications, do not disable. So disabling, can or cannot work, but if you disable it, it doesn't work, don't call support, uninstall it, and try it again. Okay. All right, so Bare Metal Image Creator, we have that launched. See, it's Shadow Protect, so those of you familiar with Shadow Protect will be familiar with what we have going on right here. Create a quick backup. So we're in the wizard. It's going to ask us to select a specific partition to create a bare metal image backup of this. And then through VSS, it's going to package any database that's on there that has VSS Writer in a restorable format. So SQL, Exchange, Active Directory, QuickBooks, all those things will be backed up. But you have to select the information at a partition level. So it becomes more important when you start taking images off-site to actually partition with specific programs in mind. So if you have your C drive, which just has program file directory, great. And don't just put everything else on your next drive load. Have an Exchange drive, have an SQL server drive, have a file server drive. You just want to separate it, because when you're running these backups, it'll really save you time in terms of recovery. So in this type of strategy, I would take a backup of the C drive and then convert it to a VHD or VMDK and just have it ready to go on site somewhere, or maybe even at my office for some customers to have that as another value-added service. That way, if they go down, you just boot up a virtual machine, then all you have to do is recover the bare metal image files for these drives, and then you do a quick mount as a virtual drive, and I'll show you how quickly that can be done in a minute. So selecting at partition level, you select Exchange Drive E. Now it's going to ask you, okay, we understand you want to back that up. Where do you want to back it up to? That comes into play for the staging machine. So let's go back to our knowledge base. Do I need a staging machine? What is the point of this? So first line, it's not necessary but highly recommended. The reason we recommend a staging machine is, oh, sorry, some of the audio trailed off. Am I coming in better now? Test, test. Okay, good. All right, so the reason we recommend a staging machine is twofold. One, when we are running a backup, there are a few areas for, I guess I wouldn't really call them bottlenecks, but they're areas where you could see that have an effect on how quickly the backups are going to run. So the first is your hard drive speed. We're going to copy the file to a temporary location and work on it from there. So depending on how quick your hard drive is and also how large the file is, then you can, it may take some time. So when you're running a backup, it's going to handle the small files first, and when it gets to a larger file, it may say processing. It may say processing for as much time as it's going to take to copy your file to a new location. Then it's going to need to identify whether or not it's a version of an existing file or if it's a new file. If it's a version, it'll do a delta level backup, so it's going to dig into that file and say, okay, we already have a version of this file in the cloud. What is the block level difference between this file and the file we already have in the cloud? And it's going to create what we call a delta file. So that's the block level changes. So many bits in a byte, bytes in a block, blocks in a file. And for all intents and purposes, that's how we're breaking it down. So just cups in a pint, pints in a quart, quarts in a gallon. For those of you using metric, I think you still get it. The whole idea here is that by doing a bare metal image backup, first locally to a staging machine, one, you're giving yourself a local backup. Two, you have dedicated space on your machine so that you can, or a dedicated machine and resources to do this process work. You don't want to have to slow down your file server or your web server to run a backup. So that's really nice to have this on top of that. The second is for the case of recovery. If you're running, you should have local and off-site backups. They're complementary. That's why we have this flow. So if you have a nice staging machine, I think we put one together for about $700, and it's got, 5 cores and 8 gigs of RAM, and I think we only spent, we spent just under $1,000 on it. And if we need to recover, we just split it into a VM and then mount whatever server that went down as a virtual machine there, change some internal IP addresses so it's pointing to this new location, and then we're up and running. So it's also a nice recovery point. Kathy, sorry, what did I say about the C drive? So the C drive, if you separate it when we're running the backups, so that this is only your basic system information, then it would be beneficial, and I would recommend having a virtual machine version of it. So through Image Manager, which is another program you can install, you can look this up in the knowledge base, you can convert the StorageCraft or Shadow Protect file, so SPF or SPI, into a VHD or VMDK. And now it takes about as much time as it would to do a hardware independent restore, but what it means is that you have a file that is 10 to 15 minutes away from being mounted as a full-fledged virtual machine. So it's just it's a nice part of a disaster recovery solution. You can also subscribe to the StorageCraft service called Head Start Restore, and that will give you the ability to schedule converting the image files into VHDs or VMDKs, so on a regular basis you can be ready with newer up-to-date software. So we're going to select a staging machine, so something on your network. For this purpose, we're just doing it really really cheap way, which is just to some NAS. So this is a virtual drive that's been mapped to NAS. It doesn't help you in terms of backup speed. It doesn't help you in terms of having a recovery location. So we hit next, and now we're on a schedule for full backup versus incremental. So the full backup, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's going to do a full backup, and then incrementals throughout the week, and then it does another full backup. This is a very typical backup strategy, and it has been for better part of 2 decades. But now that we're going off-site with these backups, it's simply too much information to push every week to the cloud. So if you have a full backup that's 500 gigs, that's a lot of backup time and resource every week. So instead, what we're going to do is what's called a continuous incremental. The continuous incremental is going to run a full backup to begin with, and an incremental backup from every point thereon. This is, of course, is going to mean you're going to have many more incremental files, but the restore process does not change depending on how many incremental files you have. It's going to be the same amount of steps for you. So you find an incremental file, it has a timestamp on it, you select it, you say I want to recover, and then it'll intelligently go back and do that for you. Through the use of Image Manager, you will be able to do what's called a consolidation of the incrementals. So that way, if you have, say for this schedule, this is going to run an incremental backup every 60 minutes. Let's put that up to maybe every 2 hours. And this is going to change depending on the machine. And maybe you find that running it every hour is perfectly suitable. That gives you an awesome restore point objective, meaning you can do a full image recovery to within the last hour. That's pretty powerful stuff. And it's a big part of your SLA. So let's say we're going to put our restore point objective to 2 hours. So we get 6 backups per day, Monday through Friday. It means we have 30 incrementals per week, which means we're going to have about 100, 120 incrementals per month. So you may want to consolidate all those incrementals on a monthly basis just for the sake of having 1 instead of 120. Image Manager is awesome to do that with, not only because it's very simple to do, but what it also does is it does a test of it does a test verification of the file. So what used to be you going in on the weekend, spending time doing a test recovery, Image Manager now has a way where it says, okay, all of these files are valid because to consolidate them, I essentially have to recover and then repackage them. So that's what it's doing, and it's a nice validation of the integrity of your backups. Now that's not to say that you shouldn't still offer a fire drill recovery as your gold standard managed service package. It's time consuming. This system makes it a little easier, but it's a huge value add to your customers, and it's a great way to keep your customers understanding this is why you're great. Nothing's worse than you charging for a backup, never testing it, and then when you actually go to use it, you realize, oh, it actually wasn't covering all of our system. It was only covering part of it, or like what most people found in the days of tapes, and if you still have tapes, then still today, that, oh, the tapes have just been bad and don't work. But it was giving a green light that the backup had run, but immediately becomes corrupt. Sad story for many of you, I'm sure, and for many of our partners. So we go this continuous incremental. You can select the compression method, so standard. If you go to advanced, then it gives you the option. So you select compression. Standard is about, we see about 50%. If you get a high, it adds another 15% or so. Takes a little more time. Compression, you go to advanced, you go to encryption level. So AES 128-bit, that's required for HIPAA compliance. So HIPAA compliance is, it requires your local backups to be encrypted at this level, so you have that option. If you have any programs that do not have VSS Writer or not compatible with VSS, then this gives you the throwback to the 1990s. You're going to write some BAT files in here, shut down database, stop database, and then take a snapshot. And then after the snapshot, you say, okay, restart database.
Post backup, maybe you just reboot the machine, whatever you want to do. But it lets you get around some of those older programs. Typically, they're old like Mass 90 accounting programs. This should probably be updated anyways. They're usually proprietary databases, and they just let you work with it that way. Anyone still have those that they deal with? Good question here from Michael. Should the use VSS be checked or unchecked? Be checked. Always use VSS. The volume shadow service is what's going to allow you to have transactionally consistent backups. So transactionally consistent backup is important because it's really the question you're asking it when you ask, can a backup open files? Almost any program can actually back up an open file, or it can be made so that it'll do so. That's not the problem. The problem is, has the file or database been negotiated with prior to the snapshot being made to make sure that there are no intermediary transactions that haven't been completed? Because transactions are they're stored in pairs, and if they're in process, then your backup's not going to capture those, so you can lose information. So with cheaper backup systems, when you're asking, can a backup open files, you're really trying to get at, is it a transactionally consistent backup? So, that's what it is. So I buy something, money gets taken out of my account and gets put into somebody else's account. Those are two steps to a transaction. Transactionally inconsistent means that process, a crash happens right in the middle of that transaction, and if they had to restore back to that point, there would be no record of that transaction happening. Versus a crash consistent backup or transactionally consistent backup, it would first say, hey, would you finish up the last transaction you're working on and don't start another one until I say. It'll finish, snapshot, and then continue. And it happens in split seconds, and you can actually see it happen in the backup history. Splitting the image, highly recommended here for the sake of performance and backup and recovery. Split your images up into about 5 gig chunks. You can do 5 to 10 gig chunks, that's fine, but again, the limitations we talked about, you really realize in your local machine. So we've tested up to 100 gig files, and it backed up, but it took a while, and it took a real beefy machine, and in any real-world environment, you don't want to rely on, a vacuum environment test to tell you whether or not you can do it. This is just going to be a lot better for you in the long term. It still does not change anything for your recovery steps. Doesn't matter if you have, 25 gig files or one. It's going to be the same steps to recover. I hit next, summary, finish this up, it's going to run. All my backup and recovery, I'll open this up. And again, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, we're going to have a new version of this, 5.7. So what we're going to have in 5.7 is backup and restore. When I hit set up online backup, you're now going to get a drop-down that has different types of backup. So file and folder backup, image backup, which right now is represented by the separate tab, and then exchange backup. And then soon thereafter, SQL backup. So we're adding some native Exchange and SQL backup technology to our core online backup application here. So if you're doing the backup of folders and files, it's important that you note the caching system. So we go to options, we go to caching options. The caching means we're going to store a version of the file that meets certain criteria. So if it's in telecache, it's got to be greater than 500 megs. I'm sorry. Greater than 200 or 500 kilobytes. Greater than 500 kilobytes, and it's got to be not a media file, so no music or pictures, anything like that. Mostly for documents, TST files, things of that nature. We're going to copy those files into a location noted here under the Folders tab, Cache folder. So you want to make sure that you have enough free space to handle that. If you don't, the system will actually notify you that you don't have enough free space. The system will actually notify you if you don't have enough free space plus a 20% overhead. And then you can change the location of the cache. You have different filters, so you can say, okay, I don't want to back up the following types of files. So that's nice. For image stream, there's no caching because the files aren't changing. You have newly created incremental files. So rather than a file that has been saved over, so you have a document or a PowerPoint, and you save, it's been saved over. So then the delta level backup will come into play. With image stream, it's going to save a new incremental file. So if we go into our F drive where we're running backups, we're going to see backup job 1, incremental 1, incremental 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a new file every time. So it doesn't need to run the delta level backup, so there's no cache. Also through image stream, it's built so that the retention policy is 0. So if you delete one of these files, so let's set the backup set. So I'm going to back up everything in the F drive. Great. Automatically, blah, blah, blah. We'll finish. If I back up everything in the F drive, and then I remove one of these files. So say we're going to do using Image Manager, we're going to consolidate all the incrementals into a monthly consolidated file. So instead of an I right here, it's going to say MI or MCI. And then it'll remove all the previous incrementals that were removed from the local machine. Then when we go to recover this information, let's say we recover to, let's say we have F. So we have backup job 4, incremental, or backup job 5, incremental 35. Okay. I right-click this. Don't have to launch any software. This is just a Windows Explorer. I hit Quick Mount. I hit Mount. Quick Mount, and it's going to mount a virtual drive based on this backup job up to this incremental. So there's Exchange Drive J, and now it has that. And that's it. So now that I have the Exchange information, I will use my Exchange recovery tool. Unfortunately, today we don't have enough time to cover it. We'll cover that in the next session. Any questions about what we covered today? Any questions about the dashboard, the My Account system, using a bare metal image backup? Any questions about the new company admin role? Good question here. Kathy asks, when will this be posted to view again? Generally within about 24 to 48 hours. All right. Well, thank you all for your time today. Again, my name is Derek Wood. I'm the product manager here at Infoscale. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in the forums. If you're not part of the partner advisory community, just register, submit a ticket to support, and request to become part of that. They'll add you to it, and then you can participate in those forums as well as the general public forums. So thank you again for your time today, and looking forward to it. Cheers.